I want to go through some of the Forex pairs, specifically the US dollar pairs. And I did post them online today as well. The USD Swiss franc, what really interests me is it's flipped the ATR with a lack of conviction, and it's went back to test the ATR. I think it's actually going to come down to here. Okay. And I thought that was a really interesting formation. The only thing we have to watch today is the ATR right at 89.79. So I thought that one was very interesting. We did have Magenta Peak over here on the 3-minute, but I'm not seeing, an oversold state on the 12-minute, the 45-minute, or the 180-minute. I am seeing a Magenta Peak coming in on the 720. That should also push it down. That ATR value right now is 89.23. Remember, it will come up towards price. So I'm thinking probably 88.63, which is where the congestion dot is. Does everybody understand that? Now, trading the binaries, next week I'm going to show you how you could do a binary or a spread or both, either one, and limit your risk on that. But I thought that was a very interesting formation. We also have the Euro US dollar. You can see that the Magenta Peak is coming in here. Okay, and I think that will push it up further towards the ATR. Do you see how you have the congestion pattern on the 45-minute? So I think it will test this ATR. For some reason, the volume today is not working on the Euro US dollar. Okay. No, you cannot get price data without the kinetic volume, Dan, or the kinetic data. You also see, over here on the 12-minute, you're right at an ATR. You're also at an ATR on the 3-minute. But, I think this is going to make a Magenta Peak form on the 1440 as well. So I think it's going to push price up, basically. The only thing that's going to be in the way of that is this ATR at 35.60, okay? I do think it would break the congestion dot on the 45-minute as it stands right now. Then over on the British pound US dollar, do you see how we outlined the congestion area for you? And then yesterday it came down to the ATR and closed up. The only thing that may prevent price from going up, again, is the ATR from the 180-minute chart, okay? I think it has formed area of support because we had this diverging volume, but this is one, that you could potentially take to the upside as well. Does everybody understand that one? Now, why do I trade the USD Swiss franc so often? Because it is not prone to the price spikes that the British pound US dollar and the euro US dollar are prone to. It's pegged to the euro and it will move normally with the euro, okay? If we go over and look at the meter, do you see how it mimics the euro? And do you see how strongly the dollar is coming down on the 45-minute currency meter? But you can see that the Swiss franc and the euro mimic each other. The British pound may or may not. You can't solely rely on that. But pretty much with the euro and the Swiss franc, they always mimic each other. Does everyone understand that as well? And if I'm going too fast, please by all means ask questions because I get excited over price and the indicators and movement, and sometimes I forget to slow down. So if you have questions, please let me know. You know, a lot of traders, it's not with the Swiss franc and gold, Dan. It's actually what they trade is the Aussie in gold, and they trade the Canadian with crude. I've read a report in Stocks and Commodities that actually showed that the U.S. dollar in gold actually had a better correlation than the Aussie dollar in gold. But, you know, I prefer actually just to look at the meter and let the meter tell me if one has weakness and one has strength. Because there's a lot of times that that correlation will work. There's a lot of times it will not work. But the research that was done specifically on gold compared to the Aussie and gold compared to the dollar was the fact that typically it will move more. There's a better correlation, I should say, with the Aussie. I mean, with the U.S. dollar. Still got the Aussie on my mind. Now, and some people also trade crude in the Canadian like that. They also trade crude in the Aussie like that because they think there's correlation there as well. You know, it's sort of like comparing all of the currencies and saying, okay, well, this one is strong and this one is weak. I don't do that either. I want each currency to stand on its own. And the reason is, you know, the euro could be strong against the dollar but weak against the yen. Right. I think, to me, it's a more logical approach, I guess is the best way to say. And everybody that knows me knows I'm very logical in my trading. So, and I think the logic brings in the ability to actually say this works or this does not work, because you're doing it with a logical approach and applying as best you can the same methodology and procedures to all your trades, so that way you can actually have something to measure there. You know, if you're just sporadic, you have nothing to measure other than how sporadic am I. You know, how well does that work? We all know it doesn't work very well. Yeah. Okay, now let's go over and let's look at the ES. We are getting the magenta peak, and most of you know that I've been waiting for this magenta peak. I've been writing about it and telling you watch for this magenta peak. We did get the one overnight on the 720, which has also caused the magenta peak to come in on the 1440 as well. Okay, we have flipped the ATR on the 180. We went from blue to red. It was a wide bar, and we have a congestion dot there. Okay, when you look down to the 45-minute, you also see that the ADX is at 72.5. Now, one of the reasons I wanted the market analyzer up this morning is because I think we will see a magenta peak when the market opens on the ES. I think that will cause price to go up, and then I think it will come back down. If you look at the ATR up here on the 180 is at 1951, down here is at 1947. I think by the time all of this starts to play out, we're going to be at about 1946 on the ATR. That would be my projection. Does everybody understand that? Now, again, if we shrink the window up so that these volume bars expand, what is the first thing that stands out at you on the volume there? It was increasing. This last bar will probably come up with divergence, and then you will probably get a magenta peak. Well, thank you, John. It's the only way I know to trade because, again, it goes back to logic-based. You know, in my trading courses, I teach you to use a trading journal, capture your screenshots, even videotape it if you have something like Camtasia. Walk yourself through your trade setup. The reason that I encourage that so much is the market will do whatever the market wants to do. You have very limited control in your trading. And if you can find a methodology very similar to like THD, we always use an ATR or a congestion dot. We always have volume divergence. That way we can say, okay, these are our entries, and we will make sure these are the only entries we take. And then at the end of the week or the end of the month or the end of the year, you can go back and say, okay, I applied this pretty well, I didn't apply it very well, or I did apply it and these were the issues that I faced. Yes, Snagit is very cheap. Jing is free. Microsoft has a built-in capture software. And NinjaTrader, TradeStation, and I believe MultiCharts all have built-in capabilities of capturing the screenshots. Okay. And I mean, I do it even for, binaries. I still capture my screenshots. Jing, I'm not sure if it has the built-in video capabilities. Snagit does. And, you don't have to record the full, let's say you're in it for 60 minutes. You can stop and pause. When you see something in the market and say, okay, this is what I'm thinking at this point in time, because it really kind of gets into your head. And this, I mean, trading is 95% of what's in the head. Okay? So again, and I'm going to shrink this up again so we can see, there was barely a red volume bar there. Now, I can go a little bit further in this. I can pull down the window and I can click on this and I can say, okay, there was 705 buyers in that bar. There was 196 sellers. Compare that to the previous bar where there was 12,500 sellers. Do y'all understand this now? So, I mean, it's like everybody went from selling to buying. Okay. All right. So, again, on the 45-minute, I would expect this to pull up, retrace. It's bouncing off of this congestion dot here. Okay. Now, the one thing that you will want to watch is if the ATR on the 12-minute acts as resistance. Okay. Now, one of two things typically will happen. The ATR on the 12-minute will act as resistance, or they will flip it with a lack of conviction. That means that it will form a congestion dot, and the congestion dot acts as resistance and it will push price down. Okay, so there's two potential scenarios that could play out. Either one of them. I don't know which one, but I'm looking for either one of them to play out. Okay. NASDAQ pretty much the same. It's moving exactly the same as what the ES is moving. You see that we have the magenta dot coming in here. We've already had it over on the 720. It is retracing back to the 720. That ATR is at 37.67. You see that we are at the congestion dot on the 180. We are potentially going to get this magenta peak now. Remember, in NinjaTrader, it may not appear on the indicator, okay, but if it goes up and takes out the high of the previous bar, which was here, you have to offset that just a little bit. That's in the manual, tells you how to do it, okay? that magenta peak is coming in, whether it plots on NinjaTrader or not. It will definitely plot at the end of the bar, okay? But sometimes intra-bar you will not see it until after uh, the the magenta peak has actually come in. It will appear over here in the market analyzer very quickly, as long as you have it set to update intra-bar, okay? Same scenario also on the 12-minute. It may come up here and hit the ATR and form resistance. Then again, it may flip the ATR and form the resistance at the congestion dot. It will not close above the ATR with conviction, okay? You see that over here on the 3-minute, did not close above the ATR with conviction, came back to the ATR here. You can barely see it, but there is divergence there, okay? Any questions on that one before I move on to the next one? Again, if I go too fast, please type a message up, ask your questions. Sometimes I just get so excited over the charts when I'm seeing good setups that excitement overtakes me. Very rarely do I, but this morning it actually looks like it's going to be a good day to trade. I did not do the crude oil inventories because we do have the 10:30 report this morning, so that's going to affect crude either way you go. Let's go look at the Dow. On the Dow, pretty much the same thing. You have your magenta peak in here. You have your magenta peak in here. This should push price down to the ATR. Okay. The ATR on the 720 is at 16,826. Okay. So that is the area to watch if you're expecting this to retrace all the way back to 16,696. Okay, the only difference that I see on the Dow is we do not have a congestion dot up here. Okay, so that's very significant, and that tells me we could continue down. When you look down to the ADX, you're still seeing that this ADX is oversold at the moment. Anything that is above 70 is considered to be oversold, okay? Especially if it coincides with a RSI, well, if it coincides with our RSI, okay? If the RSI is below negative 50 and the ADX is at above 70, you're going to get a retracement the majority of the time, okay? Then if we look over to the 12-minute, we see that we've had a magenta peak, and this is again retracing back to this ATR, and it may act as resistance. Now, the difference on the Dow is you're not seeing a congestion zone over on the 3-minute. In fact, as it stands right now, the ATR on the 3-minute has held. Does everybody understand that? Of course, we all know how powerful the U.S. market opening can be, okay? So it very well could pop straight up, hit the ATR, and come straight back down, okay? That's the reason if you're trading futures, you know, I don't really suggest that you're in the market at the opening. You can be in the binaries, but not in the futures, because you cannot really limit your risk. You can get a lot of slippage, and they can jump your stops very, very easily. Been there, done that, ain't doing that again. Okay? All right, let's go look at gold. On gold, we did complete the retracement off of this magenta peak. And as you can see, it took quite a few days. It did flip the ATR. First it bounced, then it flipped it. Now it's at the top of the congestion area. What's important about the top of that congestion area? the ATR sitting right there on the 1440. If you saw the presentation that I did at Traders World, if you haven't, I suggest you go check it out, because it shows how strong the ATR works as either support or resistance, okay? Typically what happens when price reaches an ATR, it will bounce off of that ATR, okay? With this being at an ATR and with the congestion dot down here, it tells me, okay, we may see downward movement, okay? This would be a bounce down from the 1440. Do we have anything right now on the lower time frames like the 180 or the 45-minute that is telling us the same thing? No, we do not. The 45-minute and the 180 are both saying upward movement. So I would be waiting. I would not be taking a position currently on gold. Does everybody understand that one? It doesn't mean that you won't have a movement in gold. It just means that I'm not getting a clear reading as to what will happen, and I know I'm at an area of resistance. Okay? The whatever I did today, if I decided to trade the opening, I would take this value, which is 1266.5, and I would make sure that I have that value on my chart, because I think that that is going to be a very significant impact on the market today. If I'm not mistaken, that's where it is. Yep. So we may see it go up to this on the 3-minute, and then we may see it come down. The line, Humphrey? No, you have to go to each individual chart and put that line on there. The best chart to have it on is the trading chart, because if you're in a trade, you're not necessarily focused on your other charts. You're actually focused on your trading chart, because that's where your P&L is, okay? And that's what most traders do. So that's where I suggest you actually put the line. If it flips the ATR, that would be, indication to go long, okay? But normally, if it flips the ATR, then you have to wait and say, okay, is this with conviction or lack of conviction? So that will probably be a trade that you would see tomorrow. A good example, Humphrey, is, okay, it came to the ATR here, which I believe was, let me get my chart up. Okay, on the June 5th, it came back to the ATR. It started a bounce down on the 6th, bounced down on, well, the complete bounce was on the 6th. Then on the 9th, it just kind of lingered there a little bit, made a higher low again here, then flipped the ATR, then you developed the congestion dot. So that played out over the course of 5 days. Wait for a test of what? Of this line up here? Generally, what will happen is if they're going to break it, what they will do is they will come up here and break through, and then they will come back and retest that line. That's normally what will happen. That would be the typical price behavior. I still think it's more to the downside than it is to the upside. That's right. You do have to plan ahead. And, you know, if you're looking at your charts and you're studying your charts, okay, you had a high here, and I'm going to mark this. Okay, you made a high here and it was on strong volume. You would anticipate that. Then you came back and you took out the high on this bar, but there was no buying in there. Okay, I would be sitting on my hands at the moment. Unless I was doing a binary. Doing a binary, if you could get a spread that has a ceiling up here and it was real cheap, you could actually do that. Yeah, it's really bearish right there. But again, you know, the 9:30 opening session can actually go up and retest that high and then come down. So, you know, I wouldn't be entering right now. Just let the U.S. market open. You know the potential is there for it to go down, and be aware of it. Does everybody understand that? You know, it very well could come up here and it very well could tag this little line or come close to it. It might get to 1266. And then you will see that sellers pound it. I've seen it. And if you watch the volume will tell you. Any questions now? I wrote about the euro US dollar on the blog this morning. I do think that it's going to come here. It's going to test here. You need to read the volume. For some reason, the kinetic, I'm having trouble with the volume. I'm not really sure why. I haven't had a chance to talk to him about it. But I do think that this one, I think we're going to get a magenta peak on this one. And I believe we're going to get a magenta peak on this one. Yeah, but when was the expiration? At 8 a.m.? No, it's not going to do it probably into the U.S. Open. If I was trading something like this and I'm in one on the USD Swiss franc, I gave it all day. I don't need to be in a hurry, okay? I want the USD Swiss franc to move before 3 o'clock this afternoon, and I want it to close below 89.80. It's got all day. The only way that you could potentially do it, Dan, is by you would have to limit yourself to something that has the USD as the second symbol, okay? So, for example, you could have the Euro US dollar, you could have the Aussie dollar, the British pound dollar. You could not do the USD Canadian, the USD Swiss franc, the USD JPY, or the New Zealand dollar. It's not listed there, but I do watch it, okay? So now you could come over here, and I'll pull these over for a moment, okay? And if I switch this, no, let me bring up a new chart with the euro. and we're going to look at the 45-minute, okay? Give me just a minute. I'm setting it up on another screen here. Let's go 10 days back. All right, so I've got a 45-minute here, and this is the currency future. And I believe it's here. Yep. Now, do you see how basically these are pretty much the same prices? So all you do is look for a strike price that is around 35.27 because it should come back and it should test around this area, Dan. And that's where you would buy the binary to the upside. The reason that you can do that, and I stress this because I want to make sure everybody understands it, is because all of the currency futures are against the dollar. Okay, so this is the significant of the Aussie dollar, the British pound dollar, the euro dollar. Then when you get to the yen, the Forex pair is USD JPY. So you cannot do it on the yen. The New Zealand you could do it on, but it's a very slow market, so I'm just telling you. Okay. Then the Swiss franc, the USD, is the first in the symbol, so you cannot do it on that one either. Okay. Actually, the euro is moving up. In fact, it's crossing over the dollar right now. That's what caused this wide bar right here, whether y'all know it or not. If this is moving up, price is retracing or moving up. Now, to begin, well, the thing of it is, Gig, what I'm expecting on the euro is a magenta peak on the 1440 and on the 720. Okay. And if that happens, it's going to retrace back to around 3645, 3662. And, you know, if you're just starting to trade the currencies, you know, those are nice pairs to actually start with. And again, it would be the euro US dollar, the Aussie dollar, and the British pound dollar, as well as the New Zealand US dollar. Be aware that the New Zealand US dollar is very slow moving, okay? That's not something that's going to give you a profit target in 3 minutes. Now, if you're trading spot Forex, you cannot trade a 3-minute chart because of the pip spreads. You can do the binaries that way. You can do the currency futures that way as long as you do not have a gappy chart. Okay, what do I mean by gappy? Look at the 1-minute euro US dollar. This is what I call gappy. There's no movement in there. Don't try to trade that on the future side. You could on the binary, but you cannot do it on the future side. By the time you go into the market, pay your commissions, all of that great stuff that we have to do as traders, you will lose money. Everybody understand that now? Now, if you do have, and I get my, it varies, Humphrey, according to what the currencies are doing. I have been in as many as 7 currencies at one time. But I've been trading a long time, and I started trading on Forex. So I have a lot of experience with the Forex market, and I've used just about everything that's ever been made for Forex. There's not a lot of new stuff out there that I don't know. Not on the Forex anyway. It's always been one of my favorite markets because it was one that you could trade 24 hours a day. I used to trade Asia a lot. I still trade Asia sometimes. I trade London a lot, and now I'm trading a lot in the U.S. session as well. Now, and I get all of my data through Kinetic. It works with NinjaTrader. And what I do, for example, I love the Euro Yen. It's one of my favorites. Okay. Right now, I would not be interested in the Euro Yen because the Euro is going up and the Yen is going in the same direction. The better trade to take would be if the Yen starts to come down and the Euro is still going up, jump on it. Well, go look at your charts, and then if it's there, jump on it. I have to watch what I say. I get too excited over this stuff. Does everybody understand that? This is an educational room, and it is not a trading room. If you have the yen coming down, that's weak. If you have the euro going up, that's strength. And they're going to meet and they're going to cross, and then you're going to get a big movement usually. Do, do you still have to have a trade setup? Of course you do. You still have to have price at an ATR on one of your time frames. That's right. Let me see here. Y'all know me, I like to draw on PowerPoint. All right, so you will have one line, and it will be coming down, and you will have the other line that will be going up. That is exactly what you want. On the NASDAQ, John? Well, I'll show you what I see. They had divergence here, and they're testing for buyers on this bar, and buyers did not come into the market. You also see here you had divergence, and this is what I'm saying, that if it doesn't flip this ATR, when you have that divergence, if I'm trading the futures, that is the point of entry because you are so close to the ATR that you virtually have, a very low risk entry, John. That is exactly what I wanted to see because this was anticipated by the divergence here. Do you understand that, John? Let me stretch this out, and when I'm talking about diverging volume at the ATR, okay? This is what I'm talking about, guys, okay? Now, I realize this is big, but I want you to see it. Okay, you had both an outside bar. This is a bar that exceeded the high and the low of the previous bar. Okay, do you see how that formed divergence? Remember when Pam was in the room on Monday and she said, according to her research, 83% of the time it will take out the low of this bar. And I said, Pam, if you go back and look at it, the 22% that it does not do that, normally it's because you've had divergence. This is one of those instances, guys. And I'll show you. Hold on. I'm trying to get that bar a little bit bigger. All right, this was an outside bar. We know that because the volume bar is magenta, okay? So that tells me that it made both a high and a low. But look at what your volume did. Do y'all see that? The volume said, ain't gonna happen, guys. Do y'all see that? So then we make a high. We make an inside bar. We make a new high. We make a new high that is now right at the ATR. What happens again? Divergence. That is your lowest point of risk on a futures contract. Understand it now? Yes, you would short it there because they're telling you buyers are not interested. Now, personally, this is not based on Pam's research. Personally, I think the 23% chance that the wide bar low is not taken out or the wide bar high is not taken out is due to the volume. Because remember, volume will lead price. This low was lower. Let me get rid of that for a moment. This is the outside bar, Dan. And I'll mark that one for you. This is the outside bar right there. Okay? So this was a low. This is lower. Okay? So you have a lower low, a higher low. Should not do that. Any of the bars that make a high going back to the ATR. What platform are you using, John? And let me see. Yeah, both of mine show it. In fact, this one actually shows it better. It should be on ET. Your trading session, I've got to email Ninja because I need to know how to set it up for this. The session template, if you're using NinjaTrader, should be CMEFX Futures ETH. It makes a difference. Now, I think, John, what you're talking about is This was not an inside bar, and you're correct, it was not. Using that one, I guess because I had it on the Forex, it changed my template. But the divergence is still there. It tells you it's coming back to the ATR. If you're using the right time frame, I mean the right session template, you had an even smaller risk there. But you still had the same divergence. Do y'all see that? And I guarantee you, you have already at least taken one contract off. No, it's not that easy, and you'll get a lot of mathematical noise. You have to learn it. Yeah, it's what I use for all of my charts, John. Um, it's the CME FX futures and ETH is electronic trading hours. Okay, let me find my market analyzer window because we have something going on. We have a peak on gold, but it's not a magenta peak because this is not magenta. So does everybody understand that now? No, I practiced. And Humphrey, you'll see in the webinars next week, we'll do nothing but price bars. Then we add in the volume, and you'll do it on every single bar. You'll mark every single bar. Well, you have to learn divergence first, but the delta was there on both in this case. On this one, they came in weak, then they came in strong, then they went back to being weak. Yes, there's also delta divergence. Does everybody understand that? Now let's go back. The ATR is always amazing. I actually see it going down today. Now the only thing to that gig is the 45-minute ATR is at 77. Okay, they just had divergence right here and no buyers came in. In fact, sellers are stepping back in on that bar. So I would expect them at least to go and take out this low at 37.79.75. That's also known as the free money because you had the magenta peak over here. Okay, this is still bright red, so it actually should come back and test this low at 37.79.5. Yeah, right now it would be a flat peak, which also supports the fact that it will come back and it will test this low. Yeah, you have congestion dots down here on the 3-minute, but remember the 12 is going to dominate gig. And with no buyers in here, I still think it will come down. Do you understand that now? We'll go over that at the webinar, Humphrey. It's too complicated to even try to teach in the room. Well, if you're seeing the same thing, you're doing good. All that training paid off, gig. You know, normally and this is what I've told others, if you're confused, that's a good indication you don't need to be trading. There's something on the chart that's confusing you, then you shouldn't be on the chart trading. You know, I tell everybody by the time I get to my 45-minute, I normally know my direction. If I don't, then I wait until it clears up. When it clears up, then I go back in. That is absolutely correct, John. You have a general direction even before 9:30, but you know what you're looking for. Does that make sense, John? Right. I plan ahead, and I do plan and execute all of my trades. I don't just jump in and jump out. Oh, look, price is going down. Let's go short, and then they'll go up. Yeah, this is the way that some traders trade, and you lose a lot of money that way. And you can't measure what you're doing because you have no consistency. You have no plan. You have no specifics. You're just really trading on whims. I call it flying by the seat of your pants, which you can do in other fields, but you cannot do that in trading. That's right. Been there, done that. Don't want to do that again. It's very painful. I just finished writing a new article for Benzinga, and there's actually research, and I quoted in the article, about how if you lose money or negative, anything that's negative actually weighs on your mind more than a positive. And I want y'all to think about this today. Okay, just my words of wisdom for today. If you have, and this happened to me, and that's why I did the research, and I'll never forget it because it was the month of September, and it had such a huge impact on me. I had, it was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. I had a couple of negative trades in September, and I just felt lousy the entire month. I felt lousy, and I thought, I probably don't know what the hell I'm doing, blah, 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 blah. I just can't figure this out, and I went on, and I don't look and review my trades until the end of the month. That's like my administrative day. And when I did, I was actually positive for the month. But those 3 negative trades I had, and they weren't huge, but the fact that I had those 3 negative trades, that's all that stuck in my brain for the entire month. Okay? The research shows anything that's negative does that to your brain. You don't remember the winning trades, you remember the losing trades. No, we are definitely not our own friend. Okay, Larry, what can you use for a bottom with the ATR overhead? I'm looking at the NASDAQ anticipating a magenta peak, but have no idea where to go long. That's going to be very dangerous. But I will tell you what will happen. They We actually had divergence on this bar. They tested for buyers here and there were none. So it's going to come down to 37.79.50, Larry, and they're going to test that again. Number one, I would look at that volume. Number two, okay, I would come over to my 3-minute chart. The ADX line is red, correct? They're going to have to go back to blue, all right, Then it's probably going to form a congestion area. They'll come back to the ATR. It will be on diverging volume. That's where you will get your entry. What 85 number, Humphrey? Where are you seeing 85.99? And there you go. That's the reason I like having this up, because immediately I hear that noise. I don't see an 85.99 or 86. Let's see. This line, it's the where it went back to the ATR. Is there a mathematical explanation and reasoning behind the ATR in the specific settings used in a course or a webinar? I use the same ATR regardless of my time frames, and I'll show it to you. I don't care. I'll use a length of 9. The sensitivity is a standard deviation of 1.25. That's it. Now, I've built in a lot of other stuff to it, but that's the basics. Yeah, I was reading questions. Are there students who do better than the teacher here? I don't know, guys. Do y'all do better than I do? I don't think there's an accurate measurement of that, Humphrey. I don't know how you would measure it. Yeah, we can. Oh, that's funny, Larry. You know, if you put in the time that I put in, yeah, you could probably do better than me. But you would have a hard time putting in as much time as I do. I live it, I dream it, I breathe it, okay? And that's not being egotistical whatsoever. Well, I had 2 yesterday because I did spreads, Humphrey. But, I mean, I'm still up, so I ain't worried about that. The losses were so small it was a joke. Yeah, I am a trading machine. I don't think that's an accurate measurement, Humphrey. You're going to have losses as a trader. Well, I don't think, going over what my percentage increase was, because it was actually pretty good, but I'm also a very disciplined trader. I adhere to money management, and I also designed my indicators, and I can pretty much tell you which market is going to move. Can others do that? No. But does that mean they're any better or worse than I am? No. Every trader stands on their own. It is literally more of what's inside your head than it is about what your indicators are. You know, I went to Traders Expo, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. I had 10 other traders that were trading against me, and I was using a price chart with a moving average. And my strategy was just this simple. If it touched the moving average, I was going long. If it was above it, if it was below it, I was going short. That was my strategy. Lunda Rashke in MIT did a huge study whether you could be profitable using nothing but a moving average if you just followed rules and money management guidelines. The result of that research was yes, you can, if you have the ability to follow rules, including money management, and you have a plan. Same thing with the turtles. What made the turtles successful? It wasn't the indicators. It was the ability to put everybody in the room and they all had to trade exactly the same way. All right, any other questions this morning? Because I'm going to go trade. Any questions, guys? Well, thank you, Charles. I did record it. You'll learn that next week, Chris. We do have the Kickstart Your Trading webinar series that starts next Monday. It runs Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday from 1 to 4 for 2 weeks. You do need to be signed up before Saturday so I can make sure that everybody can get into the room. Of course, if you're an annual member, it comes with your annual membership. Otherwise, you would have to purchase it. All right. Everybody have a wonderful day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Oh, you can believe that. Thanks, kid.